Night had settled over the village, soft and heavy, carrying the scent of with smoke and damp earth. Crickets sang in the grass, and the moon rose like a silver drum above the trees. Inside a small clay hut at the edge of the fields, Amina sat beside her father, fanning his fevered face. The old man's breathing was shallow. The sickness that clung to him for weeks seemed to tighten its grip each night. "Water," he whispered. "The medicine won't work without water." Amina looked at the empty gourd near his mat. She had forgotten to fill it before the sun went down, and now the path to the stream lay in darkness. Everyone in the village knew the stories. Jackals that prowled near the reeds, strange lights that danced by the water after midnight. But there was no one else to go. She hesitated only a moment before rising. "I'll bring it, Baba," she said. "Rest until I return." He reached for her hand. "Be careful, my child. Keep to the path. And if you hear voices, do not answer." She nodded, took the clay pot, and stepped outside. The air was cool and still. Far away a drum thudded from another homestead, slow and steady like a heartbeat. She wrapped her shawl tighter and started down the narrow track that wound between tall grass and acacia trees. The moon guided her steps, its light turning the dust to silver. She walked quickly, her sandals whispering against the path. Owls called from the trees, and once she thought she saw eyes gleaming from the darkness. But when she looked again, there was only shadow. She whispered a prayer her mother had taught her long ago, asking the night spirits for safe passage. At last the trees thinned, and she heard the murmur of running water. The stream shimmered under moonlight, smooth and calm. She knelt, set down her pot, and dipped it into the current. The sound of bubbling water eased her nerves. She watched it swirl around her fingers, until something beneath the surface caught her eye. A faint golden glimmer winked from the sandy bed. At first she thought it was a coin or maybe a trick of moonlight, but when she reached in, her fingers brushed metal, warm, not cold, as though it carried its own heartbeat. She pulled it free. Water ran from her hands as she lifted a bracelet unlike any she had ever seen. A circle of gold etched with tiny markings and dotted with blue stones that shone like captured pieces of the sky. She turned it over, marveling at its beauty. When she slipped it halfway onto her wrist, the air seemed to hum. A pulse ran through her arm, gentle but alive. Startled, she yanked it off again. The glow dimmed, yet she couldn't look away. Somewhere among the reeds a whisper rose, almost like her name. "Amina?" She froze, eyes wide. "Who's there?" Only the rustling grass replied. The whisper faded with the wind. Her heart pounded. She knew she should leave the thing where she found it. But what harm could come from keeping it? Maybe she could sell it at the market and buy medicine for her father. She wrapped it carefully in a scrap of cloth, placed it in her bag, and lifted the full pot onto her head. The journey home felt longer. Every gust of wind made her glance over her shoulder. When at last she saw the first faint glow of her village fires, she almost ran. Inside the hut, her father stirred as she entered. "You're back, my child?" "Yes, Baba. I brought water." She poured it gently into his cup. As he drank, a soft warmth spread through the room. The little oil lamp by his mat burned brighter, though the air was still. Amina looked down. The wrapped bundle in her lap glowed faintly through the cloth. She felt the pulse again, steady as a heartbeat. Her father sighed and smiled. "You always find strength, even when I cannot." She smiled but said nothing about the strange things she had found. When he drifted into sleep, she unwrapped the bracelet. The golden surface caught the lamp's flame and scattered it across the mud walls like ripples of light. Without thinking, she slipped it onto her wrist. Warmth flooded her arm, spreading to her chest. For an instant she heard distant singing, soft voices rising and falling like waves, then silence. Her father breathed evenly now, The lines of pain eased from his face. She watched him, wondering if the light had done something. Exhausted, she curled beside him and slept. In her dream, she stood by the same river, the sky whirling with stars. A tall woman draped in flowing water approached, eyes deep and kind. "Child of courage," the woman said, her voice like the murmur of streams. "You have touched the gift of the river. Guard it well. Use it with a pure heart, and it will guard you in return." Before Amina could speak, the woman dissolved into mist. She woke to sunlight and birdsong. The bracelet gleamed softly on her wrist. Her father was sitting up, humming. "You're awake," she cried. He laughed, a sound she hadn't heard in weeks. "The fever is gone," he said. "It left me in the night." Neighbors came to see the miracle. By midday, the story had spread across the village. Old Cato, cured overnight. Some said it was the spirits. Others whispered that Amina possessed hidden power. When she fetched water again, a traveler resting beneath the baobab noticed the bracelet. His eyes widened. "Child," he said, "where did you find that?" "It bears the mark of Queen Nandira. That is a lost jewel of the river palace." Amina stared at him, puzzled. He explained that years ago Queen Nandira had worn such a bracelet, said it contained the magic of the river itself, the source of her strength. During a great storm it vanished, swept away by floods. Since then the queen's power had waned, and she had promised riches to whoever found it. The traveler hurried off, eager for reward. Amina watched him disappear down the road and felt a chill. She looked at the bracelet, its blue stones glimmering softly, and wondered what she had truly brought home from the river. Far away, inside the mountain palace, Queen Nandira listened as the traveler knelt before her throne and told his tale. Her eyes, dark as obsidian, gleamed with hunger. "A village girl," she said slowly. "Bring her to me, or bring me the bracelet." When the man bowed and left, she turned her gaze to her bare wrist. For years she had searched, fearing age, fearing weakness. Now hope burned again, mixed with anger that such a treasure should rest on a peasant child. That night, while Amina slept peacefully beside her father, the queen's riders thundered across the plains. Morning broke bright and golden. Amina helped her father outside to feel the sun. Children played nearby. Goats bleated on the hillside. For the first time in months, joy filled her heart. Then the sound of hooves shattered the calm. Dust rose as armored guards rode into the village, banners flashing black and gold. The villagers gathered in silence. The leader dismounted. "By order of Queen Nandira," he declared, "the girl called Amina is to present herself and the royal bracelet at once." Amina stepped forward, clutching her father's arm. "I don't understand," she said. "I found it in the river." "The queen does not care where you found it. It is hers." The guard's eyes softened for a moment. "She demands you return it by the next full moon. Refuse, and your village will pay the price." The riders turned and galloped away, leaving a trail of dust and fear. Amina's father gripped her hand. "We can give it back, my child. We cannot fight a queen." "But, Baba," she whispered, "this bracelet healed you. What if she uses it for evil?" He looked away. "Then perhaps the river will judge her." That night Amina could not sleep. She sat outside, watching the stars reflected in the river's dark surface. The bracelet glowed faintly, as if listening. Finally she rose. "I will go to her myself," she murmured. "If I must return it, I'll do it with my own hands, and beg her to spare our people." Before dawn, she filled a small bag with food, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and kissed her father's brow. "I'll come back," she promised. Then she started down the road that led toward the mountains. The journey was long. The land changed from gentle fields to dry plains where the wind carried red dust. By the second day her feet ached, and her water gourd was nearly empty. She rested beneath a crooked tree, where an old woman tended a small fire. "Good evening, grandmother," Amina said politely. "May I share your fire?" "Of course, child," the woman replied, her eyes glinting under the hood of her shawl. "You walk far for one so young." "I'm going to the Queen's palace," Amina said. "She demands something I carry." The old woman's gaze dropped to Amina's wrist. "Ah," she murmured, "so the river has chosen." She stirred the fire, sending sparks swirling into the air. That bracelet was forged by the river spirit to test human hearts. It shines for those who act with kindness, but for the greedy it brings ruin. Amina's chest tightened. "Then I must be careful." "Careful and brave," the woman said. "When fear comes, remember, light answers light." She pressed a dried fruit into Amina's palm. "Eat this when you have no strength left." When Amina looked up to thank her, the old woman was gone. Only smoke drifted where she had sat. For 3 more days Amina walked. She shared her last bread with a hungry boy on the roadside and gave her water to a wounded dog. Each time she showed kindness, the bracelet glowed a little brighter. On the 5th day, she reached a high cliff overlooking a river valley. There she found an eagle tangled in a hunter's net, struggling weakly. "Hold still," she said, cutting the ropes with sharp stone. The eagle spread its wings but did not fly away. It looked at her with golden eyes. "You freed me," it said, its voice deep and clear. "Take one of my feathers. When danger closes in, hold it to your heart." She stared speechless as the bird plucked a shining feather and dropped it into her hand before soaring into the sky. The bracelet pulsed warmly. By the time the palace towers came into view, clouds had gathered, and the wind smelled of rain. Amina's stomach twisted with fear. Guards stood at the gates, spears gleaming. She stepped forward and raised her voice. "I am Amina of the valley. I've come to speak with the Queen." The guards led her through marble halls lit by hundreds of lamps until she stood before the throne. Queen Nandira sat draped in silks, her crown heavy with jewels. Her beauty was sharp as a knife. "So," the Queen said, her smile thin, "the little thief brings my treasure." Amina bowed. "I did not steal it, Your Majesty. I found it in the river and meant no harm." "You were what is mine." The Queen's voice echoed through the hall. "Give it to me, and I may let you live." Amina's hand trembled on the bracelet. "It healed my father. Its power does good. Why would you take it for yourself?" "Because it belongs to me," the Queen snapped, rising from her throne. "With it I can rule forever." The air darkened. Shadows curled around her feet. Amina clutched the eagle's feather to her chest. Light flared from the bracelet, bright and pure, pushing the shadows back. The Queen gasped, shielding her eyes. "What is this trickery?" "It's not a trick," Amina said softly. "It only shows what's inside your heart." The Queen's rage burst forth. "Then see my power." She raised her hands. Black wind swirled through the hall, tearing banners from the walls. Lightning crackled. Amina fell to her knees, but the bracelet blazed, forming a shield of light around her. The storm struck it and rebounded. The Queen screamed as the darkness turned against her, revealing a frail, frightened woman beneath the glitter. When the noise faded, the great hall lay in ruins. The Queen lay trembling on the floor, her crown cracked. Amina rose and stepped toward her. The bracelet's light had softened to a gentle glow. "Please," the Queen whispered, tears streaking her face. "Don't let it end me." Amina knelt and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I won't. The river's gift is for healing, not harm." Light flowed from the bracelet, wrapping the Queen in warmth. The wounds vanished. When the glow faded, the bracelet crumbled into dust and drifted away on the wind. For a long moment neither spoke. Then the queen bowed her head. "You have shown me mercy I did not deserve," she said. "From this day the people will live free, and no magic shall rule above kindness." Word spread across the land of the girl who had faced a queen and brought peace without a sword. When Amina returned to her village, her father ran to meet her, healthy and strong. The villagers welcomed her with songs and drums. She told them the bracelet was gone, but the lesson it left behind would remain forever. At sunset, she walked once more to the river. The water glimmered gold beneath the sky. She knelt, touching the surface where she had first found the bracelet. "Thank you," she whispered. A ripple answered, shining briefly like a smile. As night fell, Amina looked up at the stars. The wind carried the scent of rain and the murmur of distant voices, soft, like the dream she had once dreamed. And she knew that true magic had never been in the bracelet at all, but in the courage to act with love when fear was strongest. The river whispered her name again, gentle and proud, and the sound faded into the rhythm of the world, where stories like hers begin anew with every heart brave enough to listen.